I genuinely believe that there's certain ideas that once you understand them, they can completely change the way that you experience your relationships. It's not because the people that you date suddenly change, but because you do. I spent so many years looking for dating advice. How do I stop overthinking? How do I stop chasing people? How do I attract people? How do I find a healthy relationship? But looking back, I don't think I needed more dating advice. But what I needed was a completely different way of thinking about love. Because the way that you think about relationships eventually becomes the way that you experience them. And over the past years, there have been a handful of mindset shifts that completely transformed the way that I date, the way I love, and honestly, the way that I see myself. These mindset shifts have completely transformed my own love life. These are the mindset shifts that led me to the healthiest, most secure relationship that I have ever had. One that's now lasted almost 4 years. And it's quite a feat if you think about that. I've never been in a long-term relationship like this ever before in my life. It just became proof to me that when you change the way that you think about love, you change the kind of love that you're able to attract. So yeah, these aren't dating tips, they are perspectives that completely changed my life like nothing else did before. And I genuinely believe that if someone had shared this with me in my early 20s, they would have saved me so many years of confusion, so many times of overthinking and heartbreak. So today I'm going to share them with you. The first thing that I want you to realize is this. Most people think that the biggest thing standing between them and a healthy relationship is finding the right person, finding the other part of the equation that is going to equal a relationship. I really don't think that this is true anymore. I think that the biggest thing standing between us and healthy love is the way that we have learned to think about it. Because every decision that we make in our relationship comes from what we believe love is. If I believe love has to be earned, I will constantly try to prove myself. If I believe my partner completes me, I will be terrified of losing them. If I believe someone else determines my worth, their opinion will always matter more than my own. Every behavior starts as a belief. And the scary part is that most of those beliefs were not even consciously chosen from us. We have simply inherited them from our childhood, from our parents, from movies, from social media, from our past relationships, from heartbreak, from rejection. So we've spent so many years building our lives around beliefs that we never stopped to question. And that's what exactly happened to me. Hey guys, I'm Adriana. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to share you the mindset shifts that have completely changed the way that I see healthy love and relationships. So let's get into it. When I look back at the woman that I used to be, I don't think that she was insecure because she lacked confidence. I think that she just simply believed a lot of things about love that were not true, that were not serving her. I remember that I believed that finding the right relationship will finally make me feel whole and complete and like that my life is together. I believe that if someone loved me enough, I will finally be able to stop doubting myself. I will finally be able to be confident in myself. I believe that if someone chose me, I will finally feel chosen by myself. And so without even realizing it, I had quietly handed someone else the responsibility of making me feel whole. Because of all of these beliefs, because of the beliefs that I have inherited, my behavior was reflecting that. And because of that, every relationship carried so much pressure, so much expectation. I wasn't just hoping someone will like me and we will mix well and we will be compatible, but I was hoping that they will finally make me feel like I was enough. And I remember how my early dating felt so exhausting because every conversation felt like it meant something. Every text that would be delayed, it also meant something. Literally everything meant something. Every change in their energy meant something. So I was constantly trying to figure out where I stood with that person. Do they still like me? Are they losing interest now? Did I say something that was wrong? And turned them off? Am I asking maybe for too much here? Am I not enough for them to be so attracted to me? So looking back, I wasn't actually trying to understand the other person, but I was trying to always protect myself from a story that I have already decided that was true. And that was a story that they will eventually leave. That eventually I will be maybe too much or not enough or too difficult or too emotional. Though the relationships that I was in, the people that I was dating were not creating those fears. They were just simply introducing me to them. They were simply reflecting them back to me. And I honestly think that's one of the biggest purposes of a relationship. It's not just to show us another person, but to reveal the parts of ourselves that we have been avoiding, that we have been pushing back and try to distract ourselves from. And that is because every relationship eventually introduces you to yourself. It introduces you to the version of you that feels safe, the version of you that panics. It introduces you and shows you the version of you that overthinks, that people pleases, the version of you that abandons herself just to avoid being abandoned by someone else. And as painful as that was to realize and to see, it completely changed the way that I approached healing my relationships, because it allowed me to understand that I can't continue asking, how do I find better relationships? Because obviously this won't change anything. The better question here that I need to start asking is, what are the beliefs that I'm taking into every relationship that I enter, that as a result get reflected back into my relationships? And that question changed everything, because it made me realize something else. It made me realize that the quality of my relationships will never rise above the quality of my relationship that I had with myself. So every relationship that I entered was simply reflecting the way that I already saw myself. So if I believed that I wasn't enough, I would constantly look for proof. If I believed that love had to be earned, then I would overgive. If I believed that happiness lived inside another person, I would become terrified of losing them. So the relationships were never the starting point. My beliefs were. And the beautiful thing about beliefs is that, well, they can change. It's not easy, but we can do that one perspective at a time, one realization at a time, one mindset shift at a time. And so these are the 10 mindset shifts that genuinely changed the way that I experience love forever. Mindset shift number 1 was learning to stop waiting for a relationship to become the beginning of my life. I genuinely think that this was the mindset shift that has changed everything else. Because for so many years, I wasn't actually looking for a relationship. I was looking for a life. I was looking for fun, for excitement, for activities, for novelty. And so I thought that the relationship would be the thing that finally made everything feel exciting, everything feel fun and new. That by having a relationship, I would finally have someone to travel with, someone to make memories with, someone to come home to, someone to make ordinary moments feel special. And so without realizing it, I had quickly made another person responsible for bringing my life to life. And that is honestly a responsibility that no relationship can carry forever. So the biggest shift happened when I asked myself something that I have never considered really before. I asked myself, why am I waiting? Why am I waiting to romanticize my life? Why am I waiting to start creating memories? Why am I waiting to take the trip? Why am I waiting to go to that restaurant? Why am I waiting to become the main character of my own story? I've realized that I've turned my present into a prison, into a waiting room for my potential future. And the more I waited in there, the more I convinced myself that my life hadn't really started yet, that I have to wait, that I am not there yet. Here's what I've come to believe. The moment you ask another person to become the reason that your life feels meaningful, you have given them a job that no human being can successfully do. No relationship can carry that weight. And that is because your partner is not supposed to become your life. They are supposed to experience the life that you have already built next to you. And the irony is that I actually think this is why people say that love finds you when you're not looking. It's not because the universe has finally decided that it's your turn, now you can have love in your life, but it's because you have stopped waiting. You have built a life that already feels full. You are already laughing, you're already growing, you're already living. And now a relationship becomes something that you get to share these things with, not something that you're desperately hoping that will finally rescue you from your own boring, stale life. The goal isn't to build a life that makes someone want to stay, but is to build a life that you will still fall in love with, even if nobody came and stayed. And that is freedom. Because whether there is a person or whether you're alone, you get to still enjoy and love your life. Mindset shift number 2 is that the relationship is not creating your wounds, it's introducing you to them. This one really changed the way that I heal, because for the longest time I thought that relationships were making me anxious. I thought that relationships were responsible for making me more insecure, making me overthink, making me fear abandonment. But eventually I had to realize something that was really uncomfortable to admit. And that was the realization that the relationship was not creating those feelings, but it was simply revealing the beliefs that I had been carrying long before that person had ever entered my life. So that delayed text didn't create my fear, it just introduced me to it. The disagreement that I had in my relationship, it didn't create my insecurity, it revealed it. The inconsistency, it didn't create my fear of abandonment, it just simply touched a wound that was already there. And as painful as that realization was, it was also incredibly freeing. Because if another person didn't create my wound, that meant that another person wasn't responsible for healing it either. And I think that's what relationships really do. They just hold up a mirror right into your face, and it's not to show us who we are, but it's to show us who we believe that we are. If I believe I'm not enough, then I will interpret someone's bad mood as rejection. I will take it personally. If I believe that I have to earn love because I am not enough the way that I am, I will constantly overgive and overextend myself to be worthy of it. If I believe and I'm afraid that people will always leave, I will spend the whole relationship prepare for that ending instead of enjoying the middle, instead of enjoying my time with that person. So the relationship isn't showing me reality. It's simply showing us and reflecting to us the story that we have been telling ourselves. Even though we have not been conscious of it, this is the story we've been subconsciously telling ourselves. That's one of the greatest gifts that love can give us, because you cannot heal a wound that you don't know exists. You cannot heal something that you're not aware of. So as soon as you have the awareness, you're able to start acknowledging it, accepting it, and trying to heal it, to work with it. The fact that relationships reflect our wounds also means that sometimes the relationships that are sent to us were not sent to us to become our forever. Sometimes those relationships are sent to introduce you to the part of yourself that was finally ready to heal and that was finally ready to be let go of. So every relationship will eventually introduce you to yourself. The question is whether you're willing to meet her and whether you're willing to sit with her, to understand her and to hear her. Mindset shift number 3 is realizing that you don't become secure because someone finally chooses you. You become secure and then you experience being chosen differently. I think this is one of the biggest myths that we have been sold. We think that once I find the right person, I will finally stop overthinking. I will stop comparing myself. I will stop feeling anxious. I will finally feel secure. But that's truly not what happens. Because if you don't already believe that you're enough, you don't already believe you're lovable and deserving, your mind will always find a way to doubt the relationship too. Someone will tell you that they love you, and in your head you're going to be saying, oh, they're just saying that. Someone, they will be choosing you, they will be taking actions to show that they are choosing you, and you will be thinking, oh, they'll change their mind eventually. Someone will decide to stay with you, to be with you, and you will be thinking, oh, they just just haven't seen the real me yet. And if you notice, what really happens here is that reality bends itself around your identity and not the other way around. And that's why reassurance never lasts. No matter how much reassurance you get from the other person, it will feel like a bucket that has holes and is always constantly feels drained as soon as it gets filled. And that is not because people are not reassuring enough or they're not doing enough, but is because your identity rejects evidence that doesn't match the story that you already believe. So for me, I used to think that I needed someone to constantly remind me that I mattered, someone to see how special I am, and they will do anything for me, they will reassure me, they will prove to me that we're not leaving, and that by doing that, they will convince me that I was enough. But eventually I realized that I wasn't actually asking for that reassurance. I was asking another person to do a job that belonged to me. I was responsible to feel and think and know myself to be enough, to think and feel and know that I was deserving and worthy. I was asking them to change the way that I saw myself. And no amount of reassurance can permanently heal a belief that you continue reinforcing every single day. And that is because your subconscious doesn't believe compliments. It believes patterns. It believes your own experiences and the things that you believe and you feel certain of and you expect. What you think is normal. It believes what you are repeatedly tolerating. It believes the way that you speak to yourself. It believes the relationships that you stay in. It believes the boundaries that you don't set. It believes all of the moments that you abandon yourself just to avoid someone else leaving. And that's why I always say confidence isn't believing everyone will choose you. It is actually knowing that you will still choose yourself if they don't, and that you're worthy and deserving and lovable enough to be surrounded around people that do choose you, that do love you, that do see that great parts of yourself that you see. The safest place your worth can ever live is inside your own hands. It's in your control and not in someone else's. And ironically, when you stop needing another person to convince you that you are enough, love instantly becomes so much lighter. You are no longer asking someone to complete you, to make you feel whole. You are simply asking yourself, does this person add to the life that I have already built and that I already love? That's where secure love begins. Mindset shift number 4 was realizing that you stop chasing people the moment that you stop asking them to rescue you. I don't actually think that most of us are actually chasing a person. I think that we are chasing what we believe that person is going to give us. We have seen some things of that person and we believe that that person is going to be the one that's going to give us security, belonging, excitement, validation, home. For so many years, I thought that, I was just chasing relationships. But now looking back, I realized that what I was really chasing was the feeling of relief. I was chasing relief from that loneliness, relief from that self-doubt, relief from constantly wondering if I was enough. And that's a really heavy job for another person to give. Because when someone becomes responsible for rescuing you, for relieving you from your heavy emotional world, you stop seeing them clearly. You don't see who they truly are. You see who you need them to be. You see that this person is the solution to your problems. You don't see underneath all of the other things that they are. So that's why we ignore red flags. That's why we become attached to potential. That's why we stay in situations that make us unhappy. And that is because leaving doesn't just feel like we're losing a person. It feels like we're losing the future that we have attached to them, the relief and the safety we have attached to them. One of the biggest shifts that came to me from this mindset shift was realizing that the reason that I was so attached to that person wasn't because that person was my only hope. The reason I was so attached to them is because of the future that I had imagined with them and what they meant for me, what I got from them. And so what I did was that I confused the two. I wasn't grieving that relationship. I wasn't grieving that missing that person, but I was more grieving the life that I thought that this person was going to give me access to finally. And so when I saw that, it really helped me change so much, because once I stopped asking another person to rescue me from my own life, I stopped needing every connection to become forever. Yes, of course, as I said before, dating became lighter. I became more present. I became more curious about the person instead of what needs they will fulfill for me. I wasn't trying to make someone choose me anymore. I was asking myself now, do I actually like who I become when I'm around this person? You simply stop chasing people the moment that you stop asking them to rescue you from a life that you haven't yet learned to love yourself. All of those needs that you attach to that one person, if you finally take the responsibility and the accountability for them and you try to satisfy them for yourself, you're able to then see that person as not the completion and satisfaction of those needs, but as simply a person. You choose that person for who they are and not what they offer you, for how they complete you. Mindset shift number 5 was realizing that healthy love isn't about finding the right person, but it's about becoming someone who knows how to love. And I genuinely think that this is one of the biggest lies that we have been sold collectively. We have been told that relationships succeed because two people love each other enough. And I really don't think that this is true anymore, because I've met so many people who loved each other so deeply and they still were not able to make it work. Not because they didn't care enough and because they didn't want it enough, but because they didn't know how to. Nobody really teaches us how to communicate when we are hurt, how to repair after conflict, how to regulate ourselves when we are triggered, how to express a need without us feeling guilty and shameful about it, how to apologize, how to listen, how to disagree without making the other person the enemy. The feeling of love doesn't automatically teach you any of those things. These are all skills, and skills can be learned. And these are skills that can be learned. I used to spend so much time wondering whether someone was the one. But that shift allowed me to spend much more time asking myself something else. I was able to ask myself, if I met the love of my life tomorrow, would I know how to build a healthy relationship with them? If the right person found me, would I know how to be in that relationship, to be secure and healthy and loving in the right way? And that question really humbled me, because the answer humbled me. I realized that I spent so many years preparing to meet someone, but I spent almost no time preparing to build something with them, being able and capable of creating something with them and making it last. And here's another realization that completely changed the way that I see relationships, is that love doesn't keep a relationship alive. Two people who keep choosing each other do. People always ask me, what's the one thing that every relationship needs? And I honestly think there are only two conditions. Two people who are compatible with each other and they're willing to keep choosing each other, especially when it's difficult. And not because that relationship is easy and effortless to make it work, but because that relationship matters more than winning. More than that person's pride, more than their ego, more than being right. And that's what commitment really is. Not finding someone that you never have to work with, but finding someone who's willing to work with you. So the strongest relationships are not built by people who never struggle, who never fight, who never disagree, but they're built between two people who keep choosing each other through the struggle. Mindset shift number 6 was understanding that detachment isn't about caring less, but it's about needing less from people outside of you. I used to completely misunderstand detachment because I thought that it meant that you need to become more cold, not getting attached, pretending that you don't care deep down, and always keeping one foot at the door. But that's not what detachment really is. What I've described is fear. Real detachment is allowing yourself to love deeply without making the outcome responsible for your happiness. Because the more your happiness depends on one specific outcome, the less freedom you have inside your relationship. So you stop getting to know someone, you start trying to secure them, you stop enjoying what is happening today, and you become obsessed with what might happen tomorrow. You start reading into every text, into every cue, you're planning every conversation, you're trying to control everything, you always take action, you're in your masculine energy. And it's not because you are controlling, but it's because you're scared. That really changed completely the way that I've dated, because after I've realized that, I really genuinely hope that something works out. I care deeply, become excited, and I was able to do that without making my peace depend on whether it does. And ironically, that's when relationships become healthier, because you're no longer trying to control them. You're simply experiencing them. So detachment isn't trusting that everything will work out, but it's trusting that you will be okay even if it doesn't. That is emotional freedom. Believing that you can be good regardless of the outcome, even if it doesn't happen in this way, it's gonna happen in a better way. Mindset shift number 7 was realizing that my life will always rise or fall to the level of my self-worth. For so many years, I thought that my standards were the problem. I kept saying, oh my God, I need stronger boundaries. I need to stop accepting so much less. I need to have higher standards. But I realized eventually that standards are not something that you force. It's something that your self-worth naturally creates. Because if I truly believe that I deserve respect, I don't have to convince myself to walk away from disrespect. If I truly believe that I'm worthy of consistency, I don't have to debate whether inconsistency is enough. If I truly believe that I deserve reciprocity, I stop trying to earn love from people who have already shown me that they can never give it. You don't accept the love you think you deserve. You accept the love that matches what you secretly believe that you're worth. And that it explained why I kept overgiving, why I tolerated things that hurt me, why I stayed longer than I should have. It wasn't because I lacked boundaries. It was because I was still negotiating my worth. I was still trying to convince people of it. And the more I healed my relationship with myself, the more I saw my self-worth and I believed in it on my own, the less I needed to convince myself to have standards, because they became automatic. When you know your value, protecting your peace, it no longer feels selfish. It feels natural. It's also something you do not announce. It's something that people experience in what you no longer tolerate. Self-worth quietly says that I will be okay if they don't choose me, because the woman who knows her worth is not difficult to love. She's simply no longer willing to abandon herself in order to be loved. Mindset shift number 8 was that I stopped trying to control love and I started learning how to trust it. I think this is something so many of us do without even realizing it. We think that if we think enough, if we analyze enough, if we prepare enough, we can stop ourselves from getting hurt. So yeah, what we do is overthink, we replay conversations, we read between the lines, we look for hidden meanings, we try to predict what's going to happen before it does, because somehow we have convinced ourselves that if we see heartbreak coming, it won't hurt as much. But looking back, I don't think that overthinking ever protected me. It just made me experience that pain twice. It almost predicted and manifested that pain because I was preparing for it. And I was then able to experience it once in my imagination and once if it actually happened. I realized that control is often what fear looks like when it doesn't feel safe to trust. So I wasn't trying to understand the relationship. I was trying to control that uncertainty. But love has never been something that you can control, something that you can mold, you can put in a box, you can predict. You can't control whether someone chooses you. You can't control whether someone leaves. You can't control whether a relationship is going to last forever. The only thing that you can control is the way that you show up. The way that you show up for the relationship, but always also the way that you show up for yourself. That means your honesty, your communication, your boundaries, your ability to walk away when something no longer aligns with you. Everything else requires trust. And I think this is what most secure people understand that most anxious people don't. They understand that peace doesn't come from knowing what's going to happen. It comes from knowing that you will handle it, whatever happens, that you're going to be okay, that no matter what happens. And that completely changed the way that I loved. It allowed me to feel safe to open up. It allowed me to not be so threatened by hurt, because I stopped trying to control love and I started trusting myself. I didn't try to predict and control and fix love. I started placing that energy on myself and how I will handle it. Trusting myself, building that security in myself, building that confidence in myself. Mindset shift number 9 was I stopped asking, do they like me? And I started asking, do I actually like who I become around them? I wish someone had asked me this years ago, because when I was dating, it felt like every day was an interview. And it wasn't for them, it was for me. I was constantly trying to figure out whether I was saying the right thing, whether they were impressed, whether they liked me, whether they were attracted to me, whether they were going to text me afterwards. And without realizing it, I had made the entire experience about being chosen. I wasn't even paying attention to how I felt around them, how they made me feel. That question completely changed everything. Do I actually like who I become around this person? So that meant, do I feel calm or am I constantly anxious? Do I feel accepted or am I performing? Can I be honest around them or am I editing myself to make them stay? Do I feel more like myself or less? And this question helped me realize that the right relationship won't ask you to become someone else. It will make you feel safer to become more of yourself. And that became my new way of dating. So I dropped everything that I used to do and I stopped treating people like they were judges. I started treating them like information. Not do they like me, do they want me, but is this actually the kind of relationship that I want to build? And that tiny shift completely changed my standards, because I stopped trying to be enough for everyone else and I started looking for someone who brought out the best in me. And finally, mindset number 10, healing isn't about becoming someone new, but I realized that it's about coming home to who you've always been. I think this might be the biggest lesson of all of them, because for so long I thought that healing meant fixing myself. There was always another book, there was always another course, there was always another breakthrough, another version of me that I thought that I needed to become. Whether that was the secure version, the healed version, the confident version, the version of me that never overthinks, the detached version, the feminine version, the version of me that never gets triggered, never cries, never doubts herself. But in reality, healing didn't look like I was becoming her. It really looked, in the end, like realizing that she was underneath everything that I had learned to believe about myself. It was underneath the people pleasing, it was underneath the overthinking, she was underneath the fear, the perfectionism, the need for reassurance, the comparison, the self-abandonment. None of these things were who I was. These were simply strategies. They were coping strategies that I have learned in order to survive. And who I truly was underneath all of this coping. And once I stopped judging those parts of myself, I could finally let them go. One of my favorite quotes says that before you heal, your patterns feel like your personality. And I think that is so true. We use our personality for our patterns, for our coping mechanisms. Because once you begin healing, you truly realize that maybe I'm not really an anxious person, maybe I'm not a shy person, maybe I simply learned anxiety. Maybe simply I learned that I have to be shy. You also learn that maybe I'm not someone who's hard to love. Maybe I learned to believe that. Maybe I'm not too much. Maybe I have spent years around people who couldn't meet me where I was. So healing isn't about creating a whole new identity, a whole new and improved version of you, but it's more about questioning the one that you accidentally or you out of necessity built without you consciously deciding that you want that. So the goal isn't to become someone new, someone completely glamorous and different from who you are, but the goal is to stop believing that you were ever the stories that your wounds told you. And that is such a huge step in becoming secure, because you learn to have confidence and trust in who you really are. You see yourself, you know yourself, you understand where you come from, and you trust and love who that version of you is. Looking back, I don't think that these mindset shifts just changed my relationships. I really think that they have changed the way that I completely experience my life, because it taught me to no longer walk into relationships looking for someone to complete me, to no longer ask someone else to tell me who I am, to no longer wait for another person before I allow myself to feel whole. Because when you stop asking another person to become your source of security, they are finally free to simply become your partner. And I genuinely believe becoming secure is not about never feeling fear again. It's not about never getting triggered. It's not about becoming this perfectly healed version of yourself that never struggles, never feels anything bad, never gets into disagreements. It's about knowing that whenever fear shows up, you no longer abandon yourself. You come back to yourself again and again and again. Because at the end of the day, every relationship in your life will change. Some people will stay, some people will leave, some people will teach you lessons that you will carry forever. But there's one relationship you will wake up in every single morning for the rest of your life. And that is the one that you have with yourself. So if there's one relationship that is worth protecting, that is worth nurturing, that is worth investing in, it's that one. Because the quality of every relationship that you build with another person will always reflect the relationship that you have built with yourself. And I honestly and truly believe that's where secure love begins. Secure love starts by feeling secure in yourself, loving yourself in a secure way, so you know how to do the same with others. So that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments which mindset shift resonated with you the most. I really read every single one of your comments, and I genuinely love hearing your perspectives and your experiences. If you're new here, I would love to have you as part of this community. So don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.